why no blood option in Mortal Kombat 1 is a good idea. What will he say? What will he do? We'll have to find out.
Going on in the Mortal Kombat community about there's been some arguing going on in the Mortal Kombat community about the idea of censoring the gore in order to expand the reach of the game in the competitive scene. That there are opportunities unavailable to Mortal Kombat players, events, or sponsorships because of the excessive amount of blood and gore on screen. Now, of course, the violence has been a central feature of Mortal Kombat since its inception. The fatalities are the reason the first game became so famous.
Now, this topic is not really new. This topic isn't really new because, like, I've seen this topic been brought up before about, like, because I remember when Mortal Kombat 1 actually was coming out, it wasn't in the same vein as what Rewind's tweet enacted or, like, brought up with the discussions and stuff. But I remember when Mortal Kombat 1 was revealed, there was a big talk about that one guy, that one, like, Street Fighter guy, or I don't know if he was a Street Fighter guy, but just one FGC guy, who said that the Mortal Kombat has gotten too violent, or Mortal Kombat violence is too much, or like I can't handle Mortal Kombat violence. And a lot of people were like bashing on him, and it's honestly so was I. But it was like really weird to just like tweet out like Mortal Kombat has unnecessary violence or whatever the fuck. And I'm just like, Mortal Kombat has always had violence no matter what. Like on all the years that Mortal Kombat has come out, the violence has been brought up. Like the violence has always been a tier up from the last game. And so like, what else did you expect? With each new game, new violence will come up. So like, yeah, it was stupid. But anyways, what the Rewind tweeted was about how there should be a no blood option or a no violence option for Mortal Kombat 1 in order for the esports scene to have more opportunities to be like more popular, for Mortal Kombat 1 to be more popular. And honestly, I kind of agree with it, but let's watch the video.
It single-handedly created the ESRB system for rating video game content. So, of course, you can understand a knee-jerk reaction to the idea of a Mortal Kombat without blood and fatalities. I agree, a Mortal Kombat without the violence wouldn't be Mortal Kombat. I don't want to see that. But the competitive and professional side of things is another story. First, a bit of history. Censorship is nothing new to the MK series. The original games were censored for the console ports, with Genesis requiring a blood code to reactivate the gore and fatalities. And all the 3D games, Deadly Alliance, Deception, and Armageddon, had menu options that let you disable the blood and fatalities, right there in the menu. And this was not controversial.
Exactly. And you know, it's so fucking weird how anytime you suggest on Twitter or on YouTube or in comments and stuff, anytime you suggest, hey, what if we just had a no blood option in Mortal Kombat? What if we had like a toned down option for Mortal Kombat? What if we had like a no violence mode for Mortal Kombat? Immediately you have people saying like, censorship fucking sucks. Why would you want to censor Mortal Kombat? Mortal Kombat is all violent. Why are you taking away everything from Mortal Kombat? Every blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, well, hold on. We're not saying to strip away the violence in Mortal Kombat for the whole game. We're not saying that. We're just saying that to have an option. And this option, as presented in this video, has been in Mortal Kombat since the beginning. There has almost always been an option for this. And nobody cared. You know why? Because those who didn't want the violence censored didn't have it censored. If you don't want your if that's what you're like freaking the fuck out about like, oh, why are you censoring my Mortal Kombat? Why are you stripping down? Like, if you're worried about stripping away the identity of Mortal Kombat, guess what? You have the option to not have that. You have the option to keep everything that you like about Mortal Kombat. And no one is going to tell you to stop. Not a single person will tell you to stop. But all of a sudden, it's fucking insane and like brain rot whenever you bring up this suggestion of having the option. I have no idea why. It doesn't make sense to me.
MK9, the holiest of holies, had a code found in the crypt that allowed you to turn off the blood and fatalities during the versus screen. And after a while, this became as close to tournament standard as you can get without it being an official rule. Pretty much everyone inputted this code for 2 reasons. 1, certain stages had lag and it was helped by cutting out the blood. And 2, cutting fatalities meant we could immediately go to the rematch option without having to sit through the finish him prompt or the winning pose animation.
Exactly. Like MK9, the godfather of Mortal Kombat games in the modern era, on the high level tournament play, had people put on the no blood code before the game started. And nobody cared. Nobody cared. Because all we care about when you're in this environment, you're not looking for how many fatalities you can do, how many brutalities you can pull off, how many x-rays that you can do in a tournament setting. You're not looking for that. You're looking for who's doing the combos and who's winning matches. That's all you care about. And the game, MK9, basically gave you that option to do that, because that's what no blood code enacted you to do. You got to do all the things that you wanted to do in all the things that you were looking for in a competitive setting. Who gets the best combos and who wins the round. That's it.
Again, this was not controversial in the MK scene because it helped the game move along more smoothly in tournaments.
So the tournament was less fun to watch? No. The tournaments were amazing to watch. Everybody liked MK9 tournaments. Look, I'm too young. I'm too young to have been involved in the tournament scene in MK9. I'm only 23 years old, going on 24. So when the MK9 scene was going on, I wasn't around and I wasn't involved like that. But those who were involved know that MK9's tournament scene was fucking peak. So many people loved MK9's tournament scene. Watching the matches, watching the crazy Cyrax shit, watching the crazy Cabal shit, and the Freddy Krueger shit, and the Kenshi shit. All of that was so fun to watch. None of what made those things fun to watch were because of fatalities and all the blood and guts that you can see on the screen. None of what made MK9's tournament matches fun to watch had to do with the violence of the game. Nothing.
And after a few months, we had all grown tired of fatalities anyway, so pretty much no one cared. Occasionally, you'd see a viewer in a stream chat saying, why don't they do the fatalities? Because they're a casual viewer and they want to see the violence. It's fun. No disrespect to that audience. But the chat would always answer, because the players have seen the fatalities 1,000 times and they just want to play. So to any of the fans upset at the idea of Mortal Kombat having an optional mode for no blood, you should know that bloodless options were standard in the series for 9 straight years.
I don't watch MK9, but I don't want the tournament with no blood as part of the... No. If you haven't watched the tournament, then you don't know what the tournament charm is. You can't come in here and tell me I didn't watch the tournaments, but it takes away from the charm. No. You don't understand. The tournament charm is the instant fireballs that Cabal had. It's the crazy stupid ass zoning that Kenshi had. It was the crazy stupid ass zoning that Freddy Krueger had. It was the crazy forward threes that Johnny Cage had, and the pokes that he had, and the crazy infinites that Cyrax had. That was the charm of the game.
4 games in a row. If you count the original, that's 5 games out of 9 that had bloodless options. It's only MKX and MK11 that broke the trend and stopped offering it. And now we're talking about whether or not the new Mortal Kombat should have one, now that the scene is so much bigger and there's talk of the upcoming tournament opportunities. I've been looking at the arguments for turning off the blood, I've watched several YouTube videos discussing the issue, and while I am personally in favor of this option, I find that people tend to focus on convincing the wrong people. They're talking to the fans that are in opposition, instead of making the case to the developers. There's a lot of talk about justified complaints about how YouTube tends to...
That's true, but also, I feel like they're talking to the wrong fan, because honestly, yeah, saying that I want a no blood option or a, reduced violence option... When you're saying, if I were to say that to my audience probably isn't the most involved in the tournament scene. And honestly, I probably should change that because the tournament scene has some really nice storylines and really nice lore, has some really nice cool stuff, that entertaining things about it. But anyways, if I were to say that, that's in their brains, even though I'm not saying it, in their brains, they'd be saying things like, you want to censor Mortal Kombat. You want, like, to take away Mortal Kombat's charm. No, 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 no. We're talking about a tournament scene for a specific, different type of audience. We're talking about appealing to a different type of audience that is in a very important part of Mortal Kombat's fan base. And we're not saying that that should be the norm for how the game is, like how you play the game, how you casual players play the game. We're not saying that that should be the norm. We're saying that this should be something for this category, for only this category. And if you don't want that category, nothing is stopping you from doing something else, from changing something else.
Monetize MK11 videos due to their gore, mainly the crushing blows, fatal blows, and of course fatalities. Crushing blows and fatal blows happen basically every match, so videos get flagged left and right. My own video on MK11 last year had to go through 15 different versions of self-censorship before it was allowed to go public without restrictions. It's a pain in the ass.
The other day, I had to appeal a Mortal Kombat video that I posted, and I appealed it, and like literally 3 seconds later, they said appeal rejected. Even though there was zero violence shown in that video. Zero violence shown in that video. Zero. That's fucking bullshit. I had to go over to YouTube support and try to explain, look at what you're doing. You can't have possibly looked at my appeal and rejected it within 3 seconds of me issuing the appeal. Fuck you. Just call it competitive mode instead of no blood. Yeah, I wonder if we change the language of what we're asking for would get more people to get on board with that idea. Calling it competitive mode or maybe streamer mode would be good. Because if you say no blood mode for Mortal Kombat or no violence mode for Mortal Kombat, again, you're like a lot of the casual dumb people who don't understand what you're asking for is just going to be completely turned off by it. But if you say competitive mode or no, like, or streamer mode, then you know what? Maybe you have some way to get in, you know? Maybe you have some way to get in. It's just like politics, you know, abolish the police. You're going to get a bunch of people who are not going to get on board. Like, moderate people, like independent thinking people, are gonna get completely turned off by you saying abolish the police. Now, a lot of people who say abolish the police actually just mean reform the police, or like, or restructure the police or something like that. A lot of those people use this hyperbolic language. Now, it's not like we're being hyperbolic. You know, obviously, they're very, very two different issues. But I'm trying to get the comparison here. It's like, if you change your language, you might actually get more people on board with what you got, with what your idea is. So instead of saying abolish the police, you say reform the police, or restructure, or whatever the fuck, or reorganize, do something. Like, reform the police sounds a lot better to a moderate person living in the suburbs, or living in the suburbs of Wisconsin. So saying competitive mode sounds a lot more appealing to guy who likes Mortal Kombat for fatalities fan. So yeah, I think maybe us Mortal Kombat fans like me should be changing our language. I didn't even think about that. Like maybe asking for competitive mode or streamer mode.
Of course, as a content creator myself, I would love a no blood option for me and my fellow YouTubers. It's in our interest. Another point to mention is that Mortal Kombat, in all its blood and gore, has been present at all the major fighting game tournaments so far. It's at EVO, it's at Combo Breaker, it's at CEO. So just because a bloodless option gets introduced in MK1 doesn't mean that MK tournaments will suddenly become bloodless by default. Since the bloody violence is part of the game's identity, we should fight for it to be presented authentically and uncensored in any tournament where we can. Maybe
True.
EVO would opt for bloodless, but I think the majority of events would be happy to keep Mortal Kombat Kombat as violent as it is. The deciding factor in turning off blood would largely come down to the sponsorship opportunities that were too hard.
Yeah, I feel like a place like Evo or Combo Breaker, like the big main heavy hitter CEO, I think the big main heavy hitters would not be affected by the blood, or the violence. Like, you wouldn't need to turn that off for events like that, because they're already accepted. Like, they're already given the opportunity to be like there at Evo, to be there at Combo Breaker, to be there at CEO. They're already given the opportunity to be there. So maybe you don't need to turn them off for that. But for other events, like maybe like independent events, like, what was it? I think E-League, for Injustice 2, it was like completely separate. It was a completely separate tournament than CEO, Combo Breaker, and Evo. Completely separate tournament. But that had sponsors funding that tournament scene, or funding that tournament event, and that actually got on national television. Like, you could actually turn on your TV and go to a channel and watch Injustice 2 tournament gameplay with like Sonic Fox and whoever else was playing. I forgot, Tweety, whatever, I forgot who else was playing. But you could like watch them on fucking TV. That's not happening with Mortal Kombat with the violence. That's not happening. Because why? Sponsors aren't going to be, they can't do that. Sponsors cannot be out there promoting a game, trying to promote a game to be put on national TV or some other big huge stream when there's blood and guts. It just doesn't work that way. Whether you like it or not, it doesn't work that way.
To turn down for the good of the community, and we'll get to that in a bit. But really, I think talking about monetization benefits to content creators is unlikely to sway general opinion on this issue, because if someone is against the idea of Mortal Kombat being bloodless, why would they care that a few dozen or 100 YouTubers can't monetize their videos? And they probably don't care about the well-being of tournament players and their opportunities. Why try to convince them? I just don't think this is an audience that is open to persuasion on this topic. The people that need to be convinced are the developers, so that's what I'm going to try to do. NRS needs to provide an option to
Exactly, it's just, like, it's not an audience that you're trying to convince, but like we have to put a disclaimer here when we're asking for it. We have to say that, like, look, for us, like, we're asking, like, us content creators are asking for like a streamer mode or a no blood mode, so it's easy for us to monetize our Mortal Kombat videos. We're not saying that we want that option so you can have no blood and no violence in your game. If you want that in your game, no one's stopping you. No one is stopping you. And it's not like people are not going to be posting Mortal Kombat 1 all fatalities. It's not like all of a sudden those videos are going away. No, they're not going to go away. Some people who want to upload videos of like all Mortal Kombat 1 all fatalities are still going to bite the bullet and take the demonetization. Or not demonetization, the age restriction. It's kind of demonetization, but whatever, you know what I mean. They're going to bite the bullet, and it's still going to be there. All the Mortal Kombat violence that you want to see, like if you want to see Mortal Kombat videos with like the fatal blows and the fatalities and the brutalities and stuff, most Mortal Kombat YouTubers are going to, like, a lot of the big ones are still going to bite the bullet and do that and upload that kind of gameplay. They're going to bite the bullet and do it. So it's not like those videos are going away. And again, when we're asking for this kind of mode for us streamers, for us to have monetization be easier for us, so have our content be more monetizable, we're not asking for you to have that same experience when you play the game. You can play the game however you want to play. We just need this specific thing so we don't get hit.
Disable blood and fatalities for several reasons. 1. Your advocates, your content creators that give you all kinds of free promotion need to be able.
Little Timmy doesn't care about YouTube monetizing their videos. And again, if you don't care, that's fine. It's not for you. It's not for you. That option is not for you. This isn't a problem with other games as well. I think Among Us has this. Among Us has this. Cyberpunk has this. I think Call of Duty has this. I don't know what other games have it. Maybe Fortnite. I don't think Fortnite does. But I just named some of the 3 biggest games out there. there's this thing that exists that's called streamer mode, where it mutes and it hides personal information and it mutes copyrighted music, so streamers and content creators don't get hit with music copyright, because when they do get hit with music copyright, they get their video demonetized. If you're not a streamer, if Little Timmy is not a streamer, that's okay. No one is forcing him to turn off his music. It's not for him, and that's okay. It's for a specific kind of it's for a specific kind of group. Little Timmy doesn't care about a colorblind option, because Little Timmy is not colorblind. Most people who play video games are not colorblind. But there's a colorblind option for colorblind people, and that works very well for them. I don't care about colorblind option, but I'm glad it's in the game for colorblind people. Call of Duty has paintball mode for streamers. Yep. And there we go. Yeah, Call of Duty has that. I didn't know that. I thought it just stopped at music shit. So there you go. Why is it so like, why, like, I'm not saying people in the chat, but like I've seen this so many times. Why is it so, why does your brain rot whenever we ask for this kind of mode? It doesn't affect you at all.
To make videos without the fear of getting demonetized because it's demoralizing. And this is a big one. The gore has gotten so extreme that it can seriously be off-putting. There's a big difference between a blurry, pixelated, digitized actor from 1993 punching someone's head off, or a goofy-looking 3D character from 1997 ripping someone in half as red jelly shoots out of a janky-looking polygon torso, and someone ripping out and devouring intestines in realistic HD graphics with the camera zooming into all the gory details. If the stuff seen in modern Mortal Kombat games were in a movie, it would be banned from a theatrical release. Yet we have it in our video games. The fatalities have—
Yeah, but look, listen. I have noticed that there are a lot of people out there who will say things like, oh, I can't handle the Mortal Kombat violence, it's too much for me. By the way, The Boys, oh my god, I love The Boys. The Boys show is so good. Oh my god, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, these movies, oh dude, I love these movies. Oh god, Chucky, did you see that new Chucky movie? Oh, that's so sick. Really? Really? Come on. Now, not everybody's like this, but I think it reminded me of that one. I don't have beef with this Mortal Kombat, or not this Mortal Kombat. I don't have beef with this YouTuber at all. Like, none, zero. But I forgot who it was, but there was this Resident Evil YouTuber. She's like a very, very famous Resident Evil Capcom YouTuber. Like, I think she does videos on Street Fighter 2. And then I think she tweeted out this thing about like how she can't handle the Mortal Kombat violence. But I'm just like, bro, you play Resident Evil. You play Resident Evil. You have a game where Jill is getting a whole tentacle shoved down her throat. What, like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? But like, is it Sphere Hunter? I don't remember her. Again, I have no beef with this. No beef. And I actually seen her videos. They're really nice. Obviously, I have no beef with them. But I'm just like, are you serious with that take? Are you really serious? Come on.
Gotten so brutal, so disgusting, that some fans who used to find the gore fun are now turned off by how explicit and indulgent the violence has become. I'm not about to start calling them fake fans just because the gore has gotten to a point where they're uncomfortable or deeply bothered by it. Everyone has their limits. There's a big difference between the gore of Evil Dead 2 and the Human Centipede 2. Don't watch the Human Centipede 2. It's the only movie I wish I could unsee. Though the circumstances of its existence do sort of make it brilliant at the same time, don't watch it. I'm not arguing against the fatalities of now. I think
I personally, for me, the fatalities are just as like, yeah, some of them are new ways that are like really, really brutal. Some of them are disgusting to watch, but nothing is just like, okay, that's too much. Like, that's too much. Like, I would, like, there are some things like Melina, like the example that he gave, the Melina ripping out the intestines is way different than like Melina just eating a bunch of needles and then spitting them right back at you in MK2. Yeah, obviously there's a difference. But you have to like realize that like the standards, every single Mortal Kombat game and every single like kind of like year as we grow as people are just like they change every time, like every year, or every game or whatever the fuck. So in Mortal Kombat 1, seeing you rip a head off in digitized graphics, that was like seeing, that was almost like seeing Human Centipede. Not really, not maybe not that extreme, but that was like, what the fuck, like what, like that's how do they get away with that? How can you do such a thing? Like what the hell? Like at that time, at that standard was there. Now it's not. Now that's like normal. So like obviously there are new things that are like that still kind of make us like go, you know, make us think is gross. But overall, the violence that I've seen in Mortal Kombat 11 and MK1, nothing I have seen makes me go like, I don't know if I really am comfortable with that. I think they got way too far with it. There are times where I'm like, oh, that's really gross. That's weird how they came up with that kind of creative stuff of ways of killing. But yeah.
They're fun and comedic most of the time, but I tend to prefer brutalities because they're so much quicker and impactful.
I agree.
The camera stays back like it did in the arcade classic trilogy, and they're less exploitational and sickening for the most part. I think we should be able to play the game with the gore reduced and or disabled. The only issue I foresee is online, where players disabling fatalities would have to require...
Brusk, how would brutalities be affected by no blood mode? You just couldn't do them. You couldn't... In MK9, you couldn't do fatalities, so it would work the same way in MK1. You can't do brutalities. You can't do brutalities or fatalities. How would fatal blows work? That is a big question. I have no idea. I have no idea. That's something that I don't know how that could... How did X-rays work in MK9? Were they disabled? Does anyone remember? I don't remember. How did X-rays work in MK9 with no blood? Did they just disable X-rays too? Because if they did disable X-rays, and I'll just wait until somebody says it in the chat, and I don't expect the chat to remember, but if X-rays were disabled at MK9, then they would have to figure out a new way to do a super move.
opponents to agree to no fatalities, which honestly I don't see as much of an issue. Maybe bloodless players would struggle more in matchmaking, but that's just gonna have to be the price they pay maybe. Sure, we all love MK for the gore, but those who continue to play it love it for the gameplay, and we want more people to join the scene, and if giving people a bloodless option helps our scene grow, I say do it. And my last point, sponsorship opportunities to keep the game's competitive scene alive.
Exactly, like if a no blood option, if a no violence option, or if a competitive mode option, streamer mode option, whatever the fuck you want to say, whatever the fuck you want to call it, if that means that our scene grows, if that means more people come into our fan base, more people are Mortal Kombat fans, more people get to play our games, more people talk about our games, more people are out there playing them, and they're like on these big streamers, you know, they're on these big streamers streams and stuff, I say go ahead. Why not grow our scene? Why not grow our fan base? Why not have your mom or dad get into Mortal Kombat? Why not you connect with new people in new ways? Why not?
We can easily enjoy the first year of MK1 with all the gore and fatalities, because we'll have the numbers, we'll have the Warner Brothers financial support, but in the second, third, fourth year of the game, the publisher support dries up. It happens every cycle. We have to find our own opportunities. If agreeing to run the game bloodless... Yep.
Like, the first year of Mortal Kombat games and Injustice games, in terms of the competitive scene, they're always huge, they're always big. Now, Injustice 2 took a real big hit. Like, Injustice 2 competitive scene wasn't even good from the start. It was pretty bad. But like pretty much every other NetherRealm game has a big, huge boom in its first year because of all the financial backing from its publisher, Warner Brothers. But when the second year comes, yeah, there's still some support significantly, but it's not as much as the first one. And now we're having to rely on sponsors to actually grow our competitive scene. so we can get more tournaments that isn't just the main stages of Combo Breaker, CEO, and Evo. We have to rely on other ways that we can get our competitive scene to grow, which is through sponsors. And again, like I mentioned earlier in this video, and I think he said it as well, those sponsors are not going to be putting out, are not going to, these sponsors like Chipotle and all these other, like Red Bull, I don't know, like Monster, whatever the fuck, they're not going to promote Mortal Kombat. They're not going to sponsor Mortal Kombat for a tournament that's not Combo Breaker, CEO, or Evo. They're not going to do it because of the violence. That's just how it is. Whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing, that's a whole different conversation. That's the reality we live in.
Allows us to offer larger rewards to tournament winners, which increases turnout. Isn't that a fine situation to accept? If Bloodless Mortal Kombat allows us to enter or even create events with new sponsors so we can keep the scene healthy, isn't that a good thing? Injustice had some event opportunities that MK could never get because
pre-watched. Pre-watched. I didn't actually watch this video, but he's bringing up the exact point that I had.
The violence factor.
With Injustice 2 being at E-League.
The E-League in 2017 had a $250,000 prize pool featuring global competition, and it was broadcast on national television. I want to see that for MK, and if it means no guts on screen, then I'm all for it. There are potential sponsors that haven't worked with MK because of its violent content. What if we could get something like Red Bull Kumite that was held this year in South Africa?
Pre-watched. I said Red Bull sponsors. Red Bull tournament.
$50,000 prize pool. No,
I swear I did watch this video before.
No money from Capcom put up. Could implementing a no blood option open us up to those kinds of events with sponsors? I don't know, but I think it's worth a try. When we look at other scenes like Street Fighter or Tekken, they always know what they're looking forward to. They have their own pro tours, it's like an established system. As an MK player, we don't know what to expect beyond the first year. I want that to change. We're seeing a huge boom in the fighting games.
Exactly. There aren't like pro tours or world tours or any of these like huge seasonal events that we get. Like we kind of get them, but they're all like very small, and it's not really that like, they're not that explosive. They're not as explosive as Tekken and Street Fighter 6 and like Guilty Gear and stuff like that. Why? This shouldn't be the case. This shouldn't be here. We should be growing our scene. We should be getting more eyes on our game. We are the biggest, most popular fighting game out there in media. Why aren't we doing more to get more? Why aren't we doing more to grow more on the competitive scene?
Right now. Evo just had record numbers for an esport event. Street Fighter 6 is huge, Tekken 8 is on the way, Project L is coming.
MK11 generated 500 million. The gore is profitable. Yeah, I know. We're not saying that gore isn't profitable. Of course it is. But we're talking about specifically the competitive scene. I need you guys. Why do you guys just not understand? We're talking about the competitive scene here. The competitive side there is no incentive for competitive players to play this game when they're not being supported, when they're not getting the same opportunities as Street Fighter 6, Tekken 8, Marvel vs. Capcom. I mean, not Marvel vs. Capcom, but like or Guilty Gear. These people have so much money being put into their tournaments with so much money in their prize pools. So many people want to play their game. So many people want to keep playing their game. And you know what that means? You know what that means? When more tournament players are like this, that means more support, longer support for one game. Longer support for one game. Could you imagine if we had like 6 seasons of DLC for Mortal Kombat X or Mortal Kombat 9 or Mortal Kombat 11? Mortal Kombat 11 definitely could have used another pack of characters.
And yeah, we know the MK scene typically doesn't stay as strong as it should through the years, and NRS tends to move on to their next game after a couple years. It's just the business, but it doesn't mean we don't.
MK isn't as popular competitively than Street Fighter 6. Yeah, why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? I'm not saying you're disagreeing with me, but like, because you might not be, but it's because there is no incentive to be heavily involved in competitive scene as much as the incentive is to be heavily involved in the competitive scene of Street Fighter 6 or Tekken.
Care about the games and want them to thrive. We should be open to these opportunities, and a no-blood code is a really important part of that. Anyways, that's the case for a no-blood option in Mortal Kombat 1. If by any chance someone from NRS hears this, thanks for listening, and please consider this. Even if the game can't launch with it, having an addition later on would be wonderful. Thanks for watching.
Yep. So again, it's a good video, by the way. Make sure you go over to Under the Mayo's channel and go to this YouTube video and give it your support. Give it a like, guys. I very much encourage that. Every time I react to somebody's video, even if I disagree with it or I agree with it, no matter what it is, anytime I react to somebody's video, I encourage you to go over and leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel. So yeah, I think I don't understand how it's an issue to ask for a optional mode, a competitive mode that turns off the blood, turns off the violence, for the competitive scene to grow, and for YouTubers to finally be able to just not have a headache monetizing their content. Sure, it doesn't affect you, little Timmy the player. I understand that, and that's okay. Guess what? Streamer mode in Call of Duty doesn't affect me either. Streamer mode in Among Us doesn't affect me either. I don't stream Among Us. I don't stream Call of Duty. And if I don't want that option, if I don't want the streamer mode experience, I don't have to do that. What's the issue with me saying I want that for Mortal Kombat? I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get what the issue is. If it's optional, that's just, there's just no issue. But anyways, one more thing that I wanted to bring up, because I actually think Ed Boon did comment on this in a recent interview. I think Lusty Girl just posted the interview on Twitter, so I'm just gonna go over like the screenshot. So this is what I really hope this means. They're thinking about it and will develop it to how many more NRS content creators join last years. I hope they consider the streamer mode safe for watching. Okay, so let's read over what it is. Okay. I know that violence is intrinsically tied to Mortal Kombat, but with how important influencers, content creators, and streamers have become to video games and how difficult it's become to monetize Mortal Kombat content, does that give you any thought about any kind of safe mode, streamer safe mode, that kind of cuts around or limits the blood and gore? Ed Boon: yeah, it does. The dilemma, I don't know if I'd call it a dilemma, but the thing that I think about is, let's say we had a mode that turned off all the blood or something, or didn't have fatalities or something like that. Part of the definition of Mortal Kombat is those things. And so to strip it away, an entire layer of it, do we really want that to be the main representation that is of continued the layer of it? Do we, oh wait, sorry. Do we really want that to be the main representation that is of the game online? It's not the whole presentation. Now, granted, to me, it's not like, okay, so that's a deal breaker, we're never going to do it. I'm always trying to think of what we can do to keep the spirit of what the game is, but also allow streamers, because I'm fully aware of streamers, to show the game and make content based on the game. I think that's the dilemma. So it's kind of a weird answer, but it also does kind of give me hope that they are thinking about it. That at the very least does tell me that they are definitely thinking about that. Now, I think Ed Boon's logic is a little bit weird there. Saying, do I want that to be the main representation online? Do I want that to be the main thing? I don't think that's going to be the main thing, because most people are not going to have that turned off, or have that turned on, have a streamer mode turned on. Much like how the average experience on Call of Duty or on Warzone or whatever the fuck is not streamer mode. When I play Call of Duty, not once is my experience tampered down by the streamer mode. It's never it's never like that. And I'm sure those who are in this chat right here who play Call of Duty or Warzone or whatever the fuck, it's Warzone, like most people who have experience with that probably don't experience that either. They probably experience Call of Duty the way Call of Duty is supposed to be played, the way Call of Duty violence is played out. And so I feel like that's going to be the same way with Mortal Kombat. Now, again, and it's weird for him to say like, oh, like, that's weird. It's weird, or it's like odd to have a no blood mode or whatever. I don't think he actually said that, but like, I'm just saying, like, we had this mode in Mortal Kombat for years. We've had a no blood option for Mortal Kombat Armageddon, Deception, and Deadly Alliance. And some of the earlier retro games had no blood options for some of the consoles. Like I think the Sega and the Nintendo versions didn't have blood and stuff like that. So like, it's not like it's not a new concept. But it is nice to see that Ed Boon is thinking about it, or NetherRealm, the people at NetherRealm are thinking about some sort of streamer mode for Mortal Kombat. I really, really hope they actually do end up making it. I think it would actually very much make sense for them to not have a streamer mode for the first year of Mortal Kombat. For the first year of Mortal Kombat, I don't think a no blood option is really required. If we're talking about appealing to the competitive scene and maybe the content creators, I think we can bite the bullet for the first year, because I think we can. I think we'll be okay for the first year of making content for Mortal Kombat. But remember, the second year of competitive scene and the second year of us making content, like once we're like over a year, we gotta start to thinking about creative ways to make our content. And with competitive scene, they don't have that much reliability on the money backing of WB. They have to kind of rely on sponsors and other like online streams that you see online, or that you see for on streams and stuff like that. So then would be a perfect opportunity to introduce it. Maybe take a whole year to work on a streamer mode and then introduce it at the perfect time where we're at our most vulnerable, where we need it the most. So if they take a year to develop a streamer mode, like after launch, and then they include it in this aftermath update, or this Super Mortal Kombat 1 update or something like that, that comes at the perfect time. And I'll take it. Better late than never. Very much better late than never.